Everybody's talking about the white light. I was watching a show. This is a show, like, there's celebrities in it. There was Steve Martin in it, Martin Short, Selena Gomez. I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but Paul Rudd was a guest on it, and his character, all of a sudden, this major streaming platform, and his character was like, I saw the light. You know, the dead people light. The idea of when you die, you see a white light is completely permeated the culture. And that idea came from, and is also continually buoyed by, near-death experiences, because people have these incredible encounters with this amazing light ball. This is one I really like. It's from a woman named Tiffany Snow. She says, all the while, she's describing her near-death experience, all the while we were moving with great speed toward a great ellipsed ball of spinning light. It was brilliantly white in the middle and yellowish on the outside edges. The closer we got to it, the more I felt overwhelming love. It seemed so warm and comforting, it encompassed my very being, like the security of a favorite grandfather's arms wrapped around a child as he crawls up onto his lap. But it's not all, so, I mean, light seems pretty good, but it's not all good. I mean, there's like a conspiracy theory, like a current group of people who are saying that the light is evil. That light, we believe that it exists, but don't go into it because it's evil. I was at a conference about near-death experiences, and people were asking me about that. Do you know about this? So what is going on with the light? What's the true nature of this light? Emanuel Swedenborg saw that light a lot during his spiritual experiences, and he described in detail what it was. So in this episode, we are going to find out what this light is and if you can trust it. Part 1, who or what is that light? It's like reveal your hidden identity, light. So the light is a real thing because not only are people seeing it like crazy now, but even hundreds of years ago, Swedenborg in his spiritual experiences saw that same light. And he calls it a lot of different things, but one thing he calls it is the light of heaven. And we have here, this is one of his descriptions of experiencing that light.
In the heavens, there's so much light that it's vastly greater than noonday light on earth. I've seen it often, even during our evenings and nights. At first, I was amazed when I heard angels saying that our world's light was nothing but shadow in comparison to heaven's light. But now that I've seen it, I myself can bear witness. Its brightness and brilliance are beyond description. What I've seen in heaven, I have seen in that light, and therefore more clearly and distinctly than what I've seen in this world.
So the light is cool. It's fun to be in, and this is the source of that light. He says in Heaven and Hell 127, heaven's light is not natural like the light of our world, but spiritual. It actually comes from the Lord as the sun. And that sun, as explained in the preceding chapter, is divine love. So the light is emanating from God. God is at his core divine love. So of course, when people run into the light, like in that experience that we read from before, they get loved, like the light loves them. If you think about it, it's weird. It is weird to say, I was in this light and the light loved me. If you're like, I'm lonely, I need comfort, you don't like, I'm gonna cuddle up with a light bulb, with an incandescent light bulb. Light and love don't naturally, physically go together, but spiritually, absolutely. It makes total sense to hear someone, I was in this light and the light loved me, because that light is coming out of God. So we talked about some Swedenborg weirdness in our last two videos where he explains why some angels see God in this form as a sun, but other ones see God in his form as the moon. If you want to go check those out, that will preface you for what we're about to go through here. Go ahead. Click back. Make sure you come back here, though. Okay, so here's the quote. Whatever is seen in heaven from the Lord as the sun is seen in the light. Since this is the source of light in heaven, it varies depending on the acceptance of divine truth from the Lord, or which amounts to the same thing, depending on the intelligence and wisdom angels participate in. So your smartness is actually just how much of God's light can get in there. The light in the heavenly kingdom looks fiery because the angels who are there accept light from the Lord as the sun. The light in the spiritual kingdom, though, is white because the angels who are there accept light from the Lord as the moon. Further, the light is not the same in one community as in another. It even differs within each community. People in the middle are in more light and people round about are in less. That might seem like it's quite a lot, but the same thing happens physically. We're all on this planet Earth seeing the same sun, but we see the light from it differently. If you're way up north, the light looks different than if you're on the equator, if it's summer or if it's winter. Even the state of your own eyesight can change the way that you see the sun. There's bees and butterflies and stuff and birds, they can see these ultraviolet patterns in flowers and things that you can't, that you just miss. So there is this same sun, different ways to experience it. So it is in heaven. God is the light, but there is as many different ways to really see and experience that light as there are human beings. Let's look more now about how people in heaven, who Swedenborg calls angels, see that light. Not when they're not just having an experience and peeking at it, but living there in that light in heaven. The relationship that you have with light in the afterlife is more intimate and more complete. Like here it's great if there's nice lighting, but there it actually changes how your mind is. So the angels will see God emitting light, either in the form of the spiritual sun or in the spiritual moon, but that light is actually what is creating their consciousness or setting the template for their consciousness. It is literally enlightening their minds. Swedenborg put it this way: the reason divine truth is light for angels is that angels are spiritual and not natural. They're not made of physical material. Spiritual people see things from their sun and natural people see things from theirs. Divine truth is what provides angels with discernment, and discernment is their inner sight, which flows into their outer sight and produces it. So the light that is coming out of God is actually what enters into us, and remember, angels are us after we die, and allows you to, you think about if you're discerning something, like, what is, do I think that, is that real or right? That's the activity of this light from God, and which he even said it in there, allows them to actually see the world around them through the impact that it has inside them. So it's a big deal. He goes on, to the extent to which angels are open to divine truth, that is, participate in intelligence and wisdom from the Lord, they have light. So part of how much light you're in depends on how much you want to let in. It's like the pupils of your eye. Right? They can be small, but they can be big. This is why heaven's angels are called angels of light. Consequently, being raised into heaven's light means the same thing as being raised into intelligence and wisdom, and being enlightened. So too, light among angels is exactly at the same level as their intelligence and wisdom. It is like a gigantic spiritual dimmer switch. You have the light that is God. Stay put. Come on, God. And each layer of reality has its own amount of light that it lets in. So we are here in the approximately in the world of spirits level enlightenment. That's where your spirit's hanging out, even though your body's on earth. So we have a bit of light. We can understand some things. There's a lot that we're in the dark about. Moving into heaven is not like physical movement. It is a change in your state of mind. So as people get the processing they need to do in the world of spirits, which is the first place you go after you die, and their movement into heaven is an opening of their mind to allow more of that light in. There's always, God is got light all over everything, but in the first heaven, you've let a little bit of that truth into your mind, that intelligence and wisdom to see life as it really is, live the good life, and know how the two interact. Then as you move up into the second or middle heaven, that is just letting more of that light in. And it's actually the change in the mind that moves you toward God, because that's how the spiritual world works. You can get to the point where, and Swedenborg would go and visit this third heaven and see just how much of God's light people were able to let in. And that not just, it looks bright around, but the way you think about life is full of enlightenment. This is why the Bible talks so much about the Lord being light. Thanks, God. The Lord being light. It might seem like this is just a metaphor, but in the spiritual world, this is literal. This is how it really happens. The Lord is the light around the angels and the light that allows them to see in their minds. For example, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Light has come into the world, but people loved darkness more than light. Nobody loves darkness, but you definitely can love falsity. The people that sit in darkness is one of my favorite ones. The people that sit in darkness will see a great light. And for those who are sitting in the shadow of death, a light has risen. And on and on and on and on. God is light. Since that light in heaven comes from God and is the truth, in heaven, everything is what it appears to be. There is where you see everything for what it really is. In Heaven and Hell 131, Swedenborg says, since heaven's light is divine wisdom, people are recognized in heaven's light for what they really are. Everyone's inner nature shines forth from the face just as it is, with nothing whatever concealed. Furthermore, the more internally minded angels love to have everything within them visible, because they do not intend anything but what is good. It's like, I got nothing to hide. It is different for people who are below heaven and do not intend what is good. They are profoundly afraid of being seen in heaven's light. Remarkably, people in hell look human to each other, but in heaven's light they look like monsters, with frightful faces and bodies, in the exact form of their evil. We actually did a show about this. People in hell look like monsters. People in heaven look human. And it's not that there's this punishing light from God that it's like, you're so bad. It's just in heaven you see things for what they really are. And if you are if you're at a party and your intention is just like, oh, I'm just trying to be friends with everybody, you wouldn't mind if everyone knew that. But if you're at a party and you're trying to like poison the punch, you don't want anyone to know. I'm just trying to pick an example that people would resonate with because they've been in that situation before. You don't want people to know. Evil inherently needs falsity because it doesn't want people to know what it's doing. That is hell, which is hatred and self-centeredness and despising others in comparison with yourself. When you get into heaven's light, people just see that's the state you're in. You just see it like it is, so it looks monstrous because it is. And so evil spirits are like, I've got to get out of that light, and that's what creates hell. It's just people avoiding the light. People in the state of hell don't want to face the truth about themselves and have the schemes that they're scheming revealed. Ironically, though, it's not like they're avoiding the harsh judgment of the angels that the angels would see. Look at how dysfunctional your life is. Angels, who can see everybody's true nature, are absolutely non-judgmental. They use that ability to help people not to judge. There's even times when Swedenborg says that angels, evil spirits, people that are in this state of hell, are constantly looking for flaws in people and looking at how can I expose evil in that person and judge and condemn them for it. But angels, they want to just look for the good and put a good interpretation on what is evil. So there's not that all the fear of the light that you're in if you're in a state of hell is not because heaven's going to come at you. It's just because you're like, I don't want people to know what I'm up to. Another cool feature in the spiritual world. Since divine truth is the light in the heavens, all true things are luminous there wherever they occur, whether within an angel, outside of an angel, within the heavens, or outside of the heavens. I know sometimes when we're making graphics for this show, and I'll just be like, well, just make it glow. Make everything glow, glowy. Because there's something about light coming out of things. When we see that translucent or transparent things, it's an image of how heaven is. In heaven, God creates light. God shines with light. Angels shine with the light that they get from God. Even buildings shine. Books can shine. Swedenborg talks about the Bible shining, and it is this, it's not just light. Light can kind of be cold, but this is like a productive, a warm light. In the spiritual world that's below heaven, truth is still there, but it doesn't have that same love. Like you can still be like in the solar system. You can be way out in these Neptune type planets. You can still have the light of the sun, but there's very little heat getting there. So you can have places outside of heaven where there's still some truth, but there's no love with it. It's like the light in winter. Swedenborg says, that cold light disappears at the touch of heaven's light. And if there is some underlying evil, it turns to darkness. I've seen this several times. It's kind of like how snow or ice disappears at the touch of spring. So that's a lot of information about that. You're welcome. I mean, is this just trivia? Does it do anything for you? Does this light of truth in the spiritual world have anything to do with us here when we're living our life on earth? Yes, it does. Glad you asked. We're going to look at that right now. Okay, enough about all this, the light in heaven and the light in the angels. What about us? What about these things? Let's talk about the light in our minds. This is from Heaven Hell 130. It stands to reason that the light in the heavens, I know I said I wasn't going to talk about heaven. Here I am talking about heaven, but this is leading to us. The light in the heavens is spiritual, and that light is divine truth. When we consider that we also have spiritual light, and that we have enlightenment from it to the extent that we participate in intelligence and wisdom on the basis of divine truth. Our spiritual light is the light of our discernment, whose objects, or the things that it looks at, are things true that it arranges in order by a process of analysis and forms into relationships from which it draws a series of conclusions, also known as thinking about stuff, thinking about things. And we can't physically see this light, but it's there. We don't necessarily realize that same spiritual light is what's allowing those thinking processes to happen in our minds. I know you all know that we have this light bulb prop. Are we going to bring it out right now? Nobody knows. Yes. So this is like the light that we're in. When we're thinking in an earthly way, which means attributing everything to physical causes, our own discernment, you're basically practical atheism, and negativity, the negativity that comes without seeing that goodness and love are at the center of life, that inner light is getting dimmer. And if you start to think more about the lofty things and God and everything, that light is getting brighter. And once you get in the habit of looking for this in your mind, I feel like you can totally see it happening. When we're thinking spiritually, when we're focusing on the goal of heavenly love, which is that everyone should be most fully and profoundly happy, and attributing everything that's good to God, acknowledging the existence of God as the source of that light, then our inner light is getting brighter and brighter. That's why we talk about, the light bulb just went off, or I guess cartoons do that. We talk about, I see. It's because we are actually, in the contents of our mind, there's light that's allowing us to see how they relate to each other and what they are. This is why when you think spiritually, it gives you this bigger, wider perspective, because when it's brighter in a room, you can see more when it's brighter in a space. So similarly, we can see more about life. For example, if we're in our dim earthly way of thinking, and let's say we make a mistake or something doesn't go well, you might think just the knee-jerk reaction is just, I can't do anything right. I'm a failure. This is as far out as the world goes, and there's nothing good in it. But when we get enlightened and we're thinking spiritually, we understand, there's a larger journey here. God is guiding us on that. I can see, there's the future. It's going to be fine. I'm learning. I'm progressing. I'm making these improvements. If somebody irritates you and you get into what they call the fundamental attribution area, you think that, that's just because that person's stupid and they're nothing compared to me and they're evil. But if we step back and look more at what life actually is, we see, okay, I've made mistakes. That person is on a spiritual journey just like me. And if our light is really bright, we understand, look, heaven and hell are kind of knocking on the door for both of us. Sometimes hell gets a hold of us. In the end, ultimately, God is the one guiding us and who is good. Because we see people more for what they are. If something bad happens to us, we might just think, okay, well, look, that proves it. There is no God. God doesn't care about me. But if you understand, and spiritual light is nothing other than understanding how things really are, you know that providence is always working through what happens to bring you closer to happiness, eternal, heavenly happiness. So you can say, I'm going to look for ways that God is helping me get through this, where possibly is he bringing good out of it. And then you really can start to see not just what's happening now, but the whole trajectory of your life in a more spiritual way. So when the light is on, everything looks clearer, things don't look as menacing, and we can see where the path goes. So in conclusion, what is the light? It's love. It's God's, is the emanating truth and love coming out of the heart of God. Do we go toward it? Yes. Go towards the light. And not just after death. Absolutely. Go toward the light. But even right now, all of life is the process of going toward the light. In your mind, every day, you should be thinking, how do I go toward that light? But we got to understand that we can only perceive so much of what that light really is while we're living here on the earthly plane. This is another account Swedenborg had of his encounter with this light.
I've often been allowed to perceive that the light that illumines the mind is a true light, quite different from the light that we call natural light. I've also been allowed to see it. I've been gradually elevated into that light inwardly, and as I was raised up, my discernment was enlightened to the extent that I could grasp what I'd been unable to grasp before, ultimately things that could in no way be comprehended by thought from natural light. At times, I've resented the fact that they were incomprehensible in natural light when they were so clearly and plainly perceived in the heavenly light.
So even Swedenborg, who is smart, was feeling like, I don't know how to describe this. So not only is there everything good that we do know in that light, but there's so much that we can't even comprehend here. It's just more expensive and better. So just know, even if it seems a little hard to see your way here, there's always ways for that dimmer switch to get turned up. Don't be discouraged. There's more and more light out there. And the promise is that light is going to get even brighter and more clear after death if we're open to receiving it. Yeah, go right towards the light. Go for it.